Okay, we are recording. Okay, welcome to Teaching with Games. An example. Um, it's an example I have created based on a previous course where we were dealing with dilemma. So I had that idea that, well, the Titanic will be a good example, a setting for discussing about dilemma. So what I would like to do is, let's start with an example of a dilemma. Let's imagine this, okay? A level 5 autonomous car is driving fast, very fast, in a rural road. The passenger is a young pregnant woman. Suddenly, a 5-year-old child runs after his ball rolling in the middle of the road. The car must make a choice, killing the child or going off road and killing the woman and her fetus. So that is very dramatic, isn't it? But it's a dilemma. It's an extreme one, and hopefully we will never have to make such a decision. But we can imagine that artificial intelligence, as autonomous car, will have to deal with this kind of dilemmas. So that's a starter. The dilemma I'm inviting you about is also dramatic, but it's a setting that occurred a long time ago. Okay, so the outcomes will hopefully we're going to learn how to teach with games, or at least see an example of it. We're going to define, characterize, and resolve dilemmas. We're going to analyze briefly, of course, the motivation behind the solution to dilemmas. And we're going to identify some values in our decision making. Hopefully, we'll achieve these goals. So I'd like to start with a question to you both. Maybe we can take a few minutes. I would say 2 or 3 minutes to think about an example of a dilemma that you have yourself encountered, and maybe you can share with us that situation. How would you describe the dilemma, and what decision did you make? And if you can, tell us why. So let's say we have a few minutes, 2 minutes to think about that, or you can just jump in when you are ready. So since we have a small group, we can be very flexible in terms of the schedule. So you can, as you wish.
Okay, I will jump in.
Yeah, come on.
I remember before coming to Canada, I came in 2002. Before coming to Canada, I was completing my master's in Chile. Okay, and I received an offer to work in the university there,
Uh-huh.
and I had the dilemma of because I already had all the paperwork to come to Canada. So I was a resident, so I have to come, and I had that dilemma: should I pick a job in Chile, or should I come to a more uncertain situation in Canada?
Yeah, I see.
So
Yeah.
so I decided, just because my parents were coming as well, I decided to come with them. Okay,
Yeah.
and I took the risk,
Yes.
of
Yeah.
coming here and
Yeah.
leaving a secure job
Yeah.
that I had.
That's very
So
interesting. Yeah. So you're actually you're right. We'll discuss about is it a real dilemma, and I think you just actually described a real one. You see, yeah.
Mhm.
Okay, Lana, do you have
Yeah,
something to share?
actually, Legare just reminded me of my personal dilemma, also related to immigration in some
Hmm.
way. So yeah, so basically, I had also to choose between like at that time, I was preparing for like IELTS tests, just to try to like better my score in terms of immigrating to Canada. And also I had a secure job, and also yeah, so just thinking in between like whether I should put more efforts into like really trying hard to get out of my country, or like should I focus on the work that I was already doing.
Yeah,
Yeah, so something similar along that
yeah,
line.
yeah. Right. So it's similar to what Milagro just described.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and I think yeah, to immigrate to another country, I imagine is always a dilemma because you are quitting, leaving something positive for most of us, and uh, and that's create a difficult decision. That's a tough decision, right?
Mm-hmm.
Mhm.
So dilemma is how would you describe dilemma? Is it any uh, thought about what the terms really mean?
I think the toughest point is that we have to lose something. Like
Yeah,
either way, we lose something. That's
yeah,
a tricky point. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah, I think life in general have you have to make choices. You
yeah,
cannot have everything.
yeah,
So I think
Mm-hmm.
a dilemma is when you are you are in a road and then you found a fork
yes,
on that road
yeah,
Mm-hmm.
and you have to take A or B. You
yeah,
cannot take both.
yeah.
So dilemma, like you have to do you have to make a decision
You
in
have
a
to make a
dilemma.
decision. That's right.
Yes.
Um,
And you
and
don't have any other choice.
yeah, and as Lana point out, a dilemma is a kind of decision that uh, you are. Yeah, she mentions you have to lose something. You have to give up something for something else, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I think that's pretty close to what I read about dilemma for preparing that class,
Mm-hmm.
um, and some other stuff I want to show you after a few minutes. Okay, great. Thank you so much. It's very interesting to see you can point the real dilemma actually. Okay, so let's move on a bit here. Um, so I want to start with actually the the idea of the game. So it's or it's a game or role play or role playing. Was not sure which term I would use. It's kind of role playing. Then it's in the we imagine we are on the Titanic. So you're going to be on the Titanic, guys. When you, and the good news is that you will survive. Okay, and but you'll have to take a tough decision. Okay, so that's the idea of that role playing or game. I need to start the it's this presentation is a short version of a longer one that is available in YouTube, and also I put it on the class forum, right? Okay, so just a few slides will be automatic for just that one. Can you see it first of all?
Yes.
Titanic and
Yes.
first sinking. In 1912, on our first trip, RMS Titanic The biggest and most advanced ocean liner at the time hit an iceberg and sank in less than 3 hours. Of the estimated 2,224 persons aboard, 70% died. Water temperature and lifeboats. There were only 20 lifeboats that could accommodate about half the person on board. They didn't install more lifeboats to provide unobstructed views for passengers. The water temperature was freezing cold at -2 degrees Celsius. Okay, so the next slide, I will just do it manually. This one, the survivor's role. You have a child, a sibling on board with you, along with your father and mother. All of you jump in the icy water just before Titanic sank. You are a good swimmer, able to reach a raft that puts you above water. You have time to save only one member of your family. Okay, so that's the idea. So you are in the water, okay, and you well, you have reached a raft. You have therefore above water, so you can survive because in the icy water, the life expectation was about no more than 30 minutes, even for young and fit person at -2 degrees Celsius. So you have all you can go to you can save only one person, um, either your mother, your father, your child, or a sibling or sister or brother. So I give you uh, not long time because time is running. So you have 2 minutes to make a decision and um, and tell us why you will make that decision. But again, because we're a small group, uh, you can jump in anytime you're ready.
Um, I guess this is extremely hard. Yeah, I guess I might be realistic in terms of like which one is closer to me and which one of them like are
Okay.
yeah, easily to be saved.
Yeah, let's imagine they are all same distance but a different direction.
Oh my gosh.
Because we want to make it a tough decision for you, as tough as possible.
Well,
But that's
I don't
such a good
know.
try, by the way. Yours, but I just want to maybe a parenthesis. We are always trying to rationalize our decision making,
Mm,
right? To find a rational
mhm,
um, motivation.
mhm.
So that's a good, very interesting point, Elena. But let's say
Yeah.
you are equal distance from all.
Wow, that's so hard. I don't know. I don't know. Because this is a moral dilemma, right?
Yes.
Mhm.
Whichever one I choose, I would be immoral for others.
Yeah.
What
Yes.
What do you think, Milagros? Help me here.
Yes, yes. I think it's this is a serious dilemma, I guess. Yes, because your parents are the ones who gave you life. Your siblings are part of you as well, and the child obviously is it comes from you.
Yeah.
So I think it's very serious. But you know, I don't want to pick somebody, but well, if I have to pick somebody, perhaps I will pick my child.
Yeah.
And the main reason that I will pick a child is because my parents perhaps they have already lived. Is that
Yeah.
right? They have their own lives and they have enjoyed life. My siblings perhaps the same idea, but the child, the child has a lifespan longer than any of the father, the mother, or the siblings. So that's
Yeah.
the only reason that I will pick a child. But honestly, I will save all of them.
Yeah, yeah. Well, okay, that's very interesting. So Lana, do you want to reconsider and maybe you maybe have
Um,
time few seconds?
it's I'm not sure if that's another rationalization, but I would perhaps reconsider in terms of the level of pain. I would imagine that the child would not be suffering as much as like the adults in terms of like mentally, because he or she won't be like as aware
Mhm.
of the situation. I don't know. Um, and yeah, and perhaps I would choose my sibling if in terms of just in terms of the level of the pain, because I think I would imagine that they might be suffering the most, as I can imagine like my parents might be more mature in terms of dealing with this situation, but it's all just like assuming a lot of things, right?
Yes, yes,
Mhm,
yes. Yeah, and we do actually assuming a lot of things when we make decisions, right?
mhm,
We have
mhm.
to. We have no choice. We are
Yeah.
making a lot of assumptions that we don't even realize. We are doing it, you know, you're just going to a Starbucks, you're assuming that the Starbucks, that Starbucks is the same as the other one, but the coffee tastes the same. So that's an assumption we don't even realize we're making. Very
Mhm,
interesting. Yeah. Okay. Very good, guys. Thank you for trying hard. I know it's difficult decision to make, and we're going to analyze that a little bit. I do not pretend to have all the answers. As you know already, it's very complex and have many elements on it. So let's move on. See what we can discover about such dilemmas. Okay. Um, the thing that okay we are trying also to teach how to use game. So if I would use this game, for example, in a classroom, I would have a tables like this one. So you see the survivor, well, students here, well, student number one, student number two, and number three, and I will just count the numbers of students choosing either the child, the father, mother, or sibling. And the other things I may ask you, but I think I know I know already the answer to that because you have mentioned that the level of difficulty of making that decision so on a scale from 0 to 10. Um, is it how would you characterize the level of difficulty here, Lana and Milagro too, or in the
10.
I will say 10. Yes.
10 really? Okay.
Yes.
It's a bit okay. 10. Wow, that's that's
But
really
but it, but Claude, I think it depends a lot on the level. Perhaps Lana and myself, we are very attached to,
all your
parents
family.
and yes, to the family.
Yeah,
If there might be situations in when you have people that they are very distant with their
yeah,
siblings,
yeah,
okay, or I don't know, they only had the mother, they didn't
yeah,
know their father.
yeah.
So I think the answer, the level of answer of difficulty depends on that, the attachment, I guess.
Yes, I understand. Yeah, it's a good point. Lana,
Mhm.
what is you said 10 too.
Oh, yeah, I said 10 too.
Uh, can you elaborate a little bit?
Because this is about life, right? I think like for us to basically determine who can survive and determine another like human being's life, this is already like the most difficult thing that I can think of. So definitely 10 for me.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know because one person that she's not joining us today. She said she might join. She said it would be interesting, and she wrote a comment on the forum saying, "Oh, it looks like it would be a lot of fun to do this." I didn't reply, saying maybe it's so dramatic. Maybe the I will not use the word fun to describe my game here. Anyway, even though interesting, I suppose. Okay, so yeah, and the motivation, you can also, if you do this in the classroom, as I do, you will certainly write down the one word or two about the reason the students will tell you about the reason why, and that's some indication, we can work on later. I mean, when we analyze uh, the, the result of the game, like after this, right? So that's a summary of the results. And you see, I have a Excel file. If you're interested, I can forward it to you. That will calculate the percentage here, right? So the percentage will be calculated, so you can, engage a discussion um, with your students. All right. So, well, in this, we have only two members, so it percentage will not mean a lot. Okay, so that's the template, and to analyze the result. And I would like now to share with you some of these results that I have done in the past. This is one of my class in China. There was about 50 students, so it's a big number enough, big enough to have at least a trend. And I've done that many times over in different classes, even different cities in China. And they did also the same in Bahrain and Dubai. And there were different results I will share with you. So in China, in one group, okay, about again 50 students, 40% of the students uh, choose to save their mother, 25% their sibling. Oh, this is a mistake. Sorry. I did some. Yeah, I'll repeat this. Yeah, 20, this one is the child. I'm sorry, I forgot to. That's the child. I can correct that right here. Right. Okay, that's the child. And 17% select their child, 10% their father, and interestingly, 7% refused to play the game and refused to answer. And some students said, for example, they would prefer to commit a suicide.
Well, that's extreme.
That's extreme. Well, everybody dies. uh, so, well, and I did the same in, again, as I said, in different part of China. And even though the numbers, of course, the percentages will vary a little bit, the actually the sequence, or if you want the ranking, is pretty stable. So the mothers always come first, sibling second, child. So the order is remain the same, even though the percentage changed a bit. All right, and very interestingly, in the Middle East, Arabic people, um, it is about the same. Um, but in Canada, it's sometimes the childs come first, as Milagro mentioned. Um, so I think there is a cultural effect, even though it's not sure. But um, when I explain to my students my personal choice, that I will choose the child. And the first time I did this, I was very surprised they will choose the mother. And I said to the students, I will, like so Milagro said, also I will choose a child. And it's interesting the reason why now, right? So you have mentioned that it's difficult for you because you have very strong family bind, or so it's a family value, right? The
Mhm.
value, but family is a universal value, I think. Um, I've never seen a part of the world where family is not important, but there is a different level of importance, okay? And what we consider family, the extended family versus the nuclear family. But I think family is a universal value. So I have a question for you. Can you try to guess the motivation of students choosing their mother first and sibling second? And the father, oh, you see, I am a father. So it's kind of disappointing, you see, only 10% of people choose their father. So do you have an idea why they make these choices?
Mm. My guess is because, mm, well, even though kids comes from a mother and a father, the the fact that mothers give the birth,
Yes.
I think there might be um, a closer attachment
Yeah.
between a child and a mother um, than for a father, I guess.
Yeah. Good point. Lana?
Um, I'm just trying to be rational again. Well,
Well,
I
but
feel like
this is Chinese people, so maybe you have an advantage over us to explain that.
I don't think so because I don't get it. Well, I'm just trying to understand. So first of all, I would imagine like most people may choose parents over younger generations because like we Chinese we sort of like carry these um like moral duty to like to really take care of our parents
Yes.
in our blood. So I'm not surprised by that, but I don't quite get it. Like people choose mother so much more than the father figure. I don't know. I could only like trying to be rational and thinking that
Yeah.
perhaps mothers are relatively like weaker in terms of like physically, so that like they needed the help the most. I don't know.
Yeah.
That's the only thing I can think of.
Yeah, that's interesting. Thank you for both of us, Milagro and Lana, to share with me this. Okay, so I can share with you what I know, what the student told me. And even though it's not necessarily the whole truth, maybe some give us some indication uh, that maybe could be explored and can be proven scientifically by more research. But but it is pretty consistent actually. So I'm pretty confident that mothers come first most of the time. So there are a few things that I can comment here. Number one, students told me that the reason some of them, not necessarily all, express their opinion about that, but those that speak out said that they choose their mother because they are grateful for her, that she gave them birth, right? So this is gratefulness, the gratefulness, to be grateful for that gift, the gift of life, right? So my mother gave me the gift of life. Well, my comment about that is that they forget that a mother cannot give birth alone. She needs a father to, okay. But that's another question, right? There's a kind of a consistency in that, right? Because you need a father too. Um, yeah, but there is a physical bind. There is like the link with the mother, and mother take care of them when they're young. Also, we have to remember that these are young people, right? They are not adults there yet. So that may explain, for example, that to some extent that they do not choose the child because they have no child, right? If maybe when they will have a child, their bind with their children will be bigger or stronger, sorry, than with their mother. I don't know. And the interesting other point is that because in China, most of the students have one, they are a single, they have no sibling, right? So there's one child's policy still. So most of these students, they don't have brother or sister, but they would love to. So they will imagine, they will imagine that if they would have one, so they miss
Mhm.
the the fact that they are alone, that they don't have brother and sister, so they would love to have one. So that's why the siblings come second, even though they don't have one.
Perhaps I'm one of them.
Yeah, really, yeah. So that's me, but that's my explanation. I don't pretend that is again the only explanation. And the father, well, I guess in most countries, the father is not as present as the mother is. Interestingly, some students refuse to play the game. So that's interesting to see that they think out of the box, right? Because the game is have this limited choice. You have to choose between four members of your family. If you refuse to play the game, that's interesting behavior. Um, Even though it's not really a solution. Um, and yeah, and also in the Middle East, I have to tell you, when I was teaching the Middle East, I was so surprised the first time I did this game, when I told I saw my students also in the Middle East, they choose their mother. And there is a researcher that suggests that in the Middle East, um, the mothers have a very strong uh, 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 um, link with their sons, because this is the way they have power in the society through their son. So that's why they have a very strong bind. Um, and also I explained to my student that because they asked me, Claude, what is your choice? What you would do? And because they were curious after the game to ask me what will be my choice, and I said I will choose the child. And for me, it's not even a difficult decision to make. In contrary to you, both of you, for me, even not a 2 or 3 difficulty level, because it's, it's instinctively I will choose to save the child.
Mm.
And I explained to my students that the reason there are 2 explanations or rationale for that. Is the first is that will save the weakest. Is part of our value, I think, at least in my family. I was thinking that everybody will think the same way. Is that we need to protect the weakest. So we protect the weakest. So the child is the weakest. So automatically it will save the child. And the other reason I will not select my mother like other people will do is because I said to my student, and they were very scandalized by my explanation, is that I said I would not save my mother because she's old, she had a good life, she can go now, right? So, so because we protect the future, So we protect the longer life to come instead of protecting, the life, the past. We protect the future instead of the past. So in the sense, we are future oriented. And also, I think in the Western world, we don't have that, well, that value of to be grateful for our mother and father as much as we are more independent from our mother and father than in Asia. So I guess that's why we have this value of independence, and our link with our mother and father is not as strong. So that's yeah, that's all I have to say about that. So let's move on if you want.
Mhm.
And there's a discussion about decision making. This is a tough decision to make, and decisions that involve our values. So that's the point, okay? Um, we want to discuss about values later, but decision making, it's in this situation, you see here an example of the richest man on the Titanic was Waldorf Astor. Have you heard about Astoria Hotel in New York? That's from him. And
Yes.
he was the richest man on Titanic. Could have saved himself easily, right? Because he was rich, and like many other rich people. Instead, he lost his life helping others to get on the lifeboats. So the question we can ask ourselves is why some people will choose to die while others will cheat to get on a lifeboat. That's a question I leave to you as a future think thought. Another dilemma that was real in the situation is this one. Molly Brown, that lady here you see on the left, and the quartermaster, one officer of the Titanic, Robert Hitchens, this guy here, they were both on this lifeboat, this very lifeboat. This photo is this lifeboat, and both of them are there. Um, and Molly asked to go back and save more people, but Hitchens, the guy, refused, fearful that the lifeboat will be overcrowded and be capsized by the people trying to get on board. So it was a big dilemma for them, right? If you go back, you risk to capsize, but Molly was actually maybe either unconscious or not realizing how dangerous it could be, or she was more brave than the guy. So is it to be brave or to be cautious? Uh, what decision they make is an open discussion, open question. So dilemma, what dilemmas actually is a choice between a right and right thing. It's according to guys that study that, Kidder. I will give you the reference a little bit later. He said that a real dilemma is when you have to face a decision between two good things, right? But we can do only one, right? So as Lana point out, really, you mentioned that. Well, there is something you will lose. You mean actually that they are either both decisions are morally good things to do, right? So you save your mother or you save your child. They are two good things, but you cannot do both, right? So this is what Kidder calls a right versus right dilemma. And you cannot override the moral issue. Okay. In other words, there's no way to get around the moral issue. There is a moral issue here. Yeah, you are more involved. Moral issue. Your moral values are involved, right? So actually, if you want, to read more about that. The guys that studied this it's very important in about studying about dilemmas is Rushworth Kidder, and he assumed that there are four kinds of dilemma: uh, so truth versus loyalty, um, individual versus community. In other words, you have to do something good for one person, or you have to do something good for the whole community. So there is a dilemma between doing something good for someone versus protecting the goods or the interests of the whole community. Um, so it's the same here, truth versus loyalty. On this, for example, you tell the truth, or you are loyal to your employer, for example. So whistleblower are typically involved in tell the truth or stay loyal to their employer, right? So that's an example of that kind of dilemma. Short term versus long term. So you can short term, you can go skiing with your family, or you stay at home instead, or and work on your assignment, right? So that's a everyday life kind of dilemma. And justice versus mercy or compassion. So that's on another kind of. So, for example, do you forgive someone or send him to jail or her to jail? So this is justice or mercy, pardon. For example, when the president of United States give pardons, he shows mercy, shows compassion. Well, now we know that it was different with Trump, but before that's what the question of involved here. Okay, so that's a reference if you want. Kidder is very important, guys. You can study. Okay, so here's the decision making according to Kidder again as 9 step. I'm not going to discuss all that, but it's you for reference later. Um, so we need to identify what kind of dilemma it is, right? Step number 4, for example. Okay, and that's a pretty rational, method. Um, but some people will criticize that rational method, saying that in the end, there's always our emotion will kicks when we have moral issues. So you can feel that in our discussion, the question of values is important, right? So we solve our dilemma based on our values. So yeah, on the Titanic, for example, there was I think, something interesting regarding our values, and more on the Titanic, for example, we have the different social classes, right? So if you are rich, you have more chance to be saved, and if you are poor, you have more chance to die on the Titanic, right? So actually, only 3% of first class women were lost, while 50% in third class died. So there is a real issue here. So how do we save more people? Or do we choose or make our choice? So obviously here, there was the economic issue. Uh, okay, so I would like to now invite you to continue about values and how values affect our decision making. So you see a list of values here, all right? So I would like you to choose the 3 most important values for you. Okay, so let's have another 2 minutes for that.
Okay, Claude, I will start.
Yes.
Well, all those values are very, very important, the ones that you presented. But I think, well, and values are very personal, is that right? So,
Yes.
um, but for me, from this list, I will say that compassion might be one.
Excuse me again. Passion.
Co- compassion,
Compassion. Yes.
compassion,
Compassion. Sorry.
compassion. Yeah,
Yeah.
compassion.
Yeah.
Um, I think generosity.
Generosity.
Yeah. And something that I didn't realize, but humility, that's
Humility.
another. Yes, because I don't know, in South American culture, being boastful is not a good thing. Okay, so you always have to be humble. Like when somebody says, oh, this is a great job, you have to say, oh, no, no, this is not that great, but it's part of us.
In your
We Yes.
Sorry, I missed the point. I missed your which culture you said?
Oh, in South America,
South America. Which
yes,
country are
people
you
are.
from, Milagro?
Sorry.
Well, sorry, which country?
Oh, I am from Peru.
Peru. Okay.
Yes.
All
So
right.
people are very humble. We never say, oh, I did this and I did that, even though you can do it, but you always diminish yourself. You have to diminish yourself.
Yeah, you have to be
you know
humble, right?
exactly.
Yeah,
So I think, and I never realized until I came here, because
yeah,
sometimes at work people says, oh, this is great, and oh, no, this is not that.
yeah,
Like
yeah,
here in North American culture, you have to be the opposite. you
yeah.
know
Mhm.
if you
Bold.
do yes, exactly. So it's very interesting.
Yeah,
So anyways.
yeah. But when you say North America, you have to make an exception for Quebec because
Oh, okay.
yeah, you're always, it's always different. For most of the thing. Well, except we eat cornflakes too. We share the same dollar, but the cultures are, and I think it's exactly the same as you just mentioned. We must be humble. People don't like that people are bragging about what they do.
Mhm.
Yeah,
Yeah, same as some of the Asian
yeah,
countries,
in
I
Asia
believe.
as well. Yeah,
Mhm.
I guess so. Yeah. So Lana, can you share with us your?
Yeah. So personally, I have always been valuing freedom and truth a lot in my life. Well, so I have been really, I think, trying to also adding two of the other ones, including preservation of nature and social harmony. But if I can only choose one of them,
Yes. Yeah. Well, you have
I
three.
I had
Three.
freedom and truth. I've already had freedom and truth.
Okay. So again, can you? So I'm sorry. Number
And
three.
truth,
Truth. Okay. Truth. Okay.
truth.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
And yeah, so that leaves me only one choice
Yeah.
here. And so I would probably go with preservation of nature.
Okay. I don't want to make typo mistake here. Okay, good. Right. All right. So well, it's just three most important. That though doesn't mean that you don't have other, right? But because of the time we have, we just want to get started. But obviously, we have more than three values. All right.
Mhm.
So that's interesting. Very, you have made some points about our different culture and cultural differences explain also, well, are explained by different values, right? So, and interesting, very interesting. In Asia, actually, also, I think there is a respect for elders is quite important,
Yes.
and social harmony is
Mhm.
very important culture in Asia. that they're not so important here. Um, so I would like to share with you a result of a study. It's an American study, though. It's a Gallup poll in the in USA. But because Canada and USA, well, the difference are not so big. So maybe it's an indication also our values in here in Canada. And what you see here is that uh, according to that poll in the US, number one is truth, responsibility number two, freedom number three, self-respect, fairness, compassion, and so on and so on. Respect for elders is in the middle, which is surprising for me. And you see what this important Asian value, social harmony, is at the bottom of the list in the USA. So we see a huge difference here in terms of cultural values, right? Or values. So it can explain a lot of things, right? And when I'm teaching business, international business, for example, I will tell my students that it's not the technology, it's not the distance, it's not the difference in laws and regulation that will be your biggest challenge. Your biggest challenge is the cultural differences, and to understand the culture where you will do business in, right? So that's yeah. So we can see it here right now.
Very true.
Yeah. Okay, so just more to explore. We are pretty much done with the presentation. Just to open some doors a little bit about what we can see in the future. In the future, there is artificial intelligence, and there is the article in Scientific American that I found very interesting. A robot, be good, autonomous machine will soon play a big role in our lives. So that is, maybe a link with our, at the beginning, when I was talking about the car that has to make a tough decision to save the life of a pregnant woman or a child on the road. So that will be interesting to check to see how it evolves and how robots will be able to make ethical decisions. So let's open a door. Maybe you want to explore. So I would like you now to conclude and ask you, well, what is your takeaway about all that, about that presentation? Teaching with games, teaching with dilemma and decision making. So what is your takeaway from what we have experienced today together?
You definitely reminded me of the fun and all the engagement, like playing a game or just using activities in teaching would bring us. And yeah, so basically all the time I was engaged. We are engaged, and also you brought up this topic of decision making, which is really, really important. We are making decision every day, and I think our life is really about decision making.
Yeah.
But we really seldom put attention to that in terms of how we can like better make decision or even think about the reasons why we make certain decisions. So yeah, so thanks for bringing up this very important topic, and I will definitely explore further.
Thank you. All right.
Yes. Yes, I have to agree with what Lana says. I think this presentation was really interesting. I think going through the process of decision making is important because every day we face dilemmas, and we have to make choices. Is that right?
Yeah.
So um, But what it's very interesting from your presentation is that the decision making process could be easier if we already know what is our set of values, because the set of values will give us
Yeah.
um, how we are going to decide certain things, why we're picking one stuff over other stuff.
Yeah.
So I think it's very interesting.
Yeah.
Thank you,
Thank you.
Claude.
Yeah. Milagro, I will agree with you. It's remind me something I heard a long time ago is that when don't you don't feel good? When you don't feel good is when your actions or decisions are not aligned with your value, right?
Hmm.
You feel sometimes you make decisions without thinking, as Lana said, and sometimes we make these decisions and then we realize that the decision we made was not really aligned with our core values, and then we feel uncomfortable about that.
Hmm.
Okay, great. And so a little summary just to conclude. So decision making often involves moral issues. They are called right or right dilemmas. In the Titanic games, we some students were motivated by gratefulness, but there are other values, obviously, and most of them will save their mother for this reason. But obviously, we have seen that depending on our values, it will be different for some other people. Our decision when facing a dilemma will depend on our values, right?
Hmm.
Basically, even though we try to rationalize it, we can have a rational process, but in the end of the day, our values kick in. Okay, so a final word is by a famous philosopher, uh, English philosopher David Hume, said that the end of all moral speculations is to teach us our duty. So I will leave it with you with this thought. So thank you for joining. It was very interesting to have so great people with me today. Thank you so much. I appreciate very much. And we'll be in touch.
Yes.
Thank
Thank you,
Yeah.
you.
Claude.
Thank you very
Nice
Thank
to
much.
see
you.
you.
Thank you.
Thank
Yeah.
Bye bye.
you.
Bye
Bye
bye.
bye, Lana,
Bye
too.
Thanks
bye.
a
Bye.
lot.
Bye bye. Stop. Mute. Shh. I have to stop recording. Close. All right.